technically you're the reigning champions, but you're not really, because that's yesterday's accomplishment. That was a different team, had some similar faces, but it's a different team. So you can't even walk around going like, I'm already the champ, because you're not. You were the champion, and you should be incredibly proud of that. But now we have to start again. And what you did before does not guarantee you anything now. When you are feeling motivated, be grateful for that, ride that wave, and use that as extra gas in the tank. But if you only work hard when you're feeling motivated, or you only practice well when you're feeling motivated, that's a slippery slope. Because even if you skew towards being a heavily motivated person, no one, myself at the front of that line, is motivated 100% of the time. Like, let's be real, there are times where you don't feel like practicing. There are times you don't feel like lifting weights. There's times where you don't feel like getting up early, times you don't feel like studying for a test. That makes you human. There's nothing wrong with that. The only thing that's wrong with that is if you let your motivation dictate your effort, you let motivation dictate your discipline, your commitment, then we have a problem. That means by definition, you are now inconsistent. It means you only work hard when you feel motivated, and when you don't, all bets are off, and we can't do that. That's why discipline is way more powerful than motivation. Because discipline is a decision. I'm going to make the decision to practice hard today even though I don't feel like practicing. I'm tired, I'm sore, I just don't feel like practicing. And that, again, that makes you human. Give yourself grace and space to be human. Don't beat yourself up. There's nothing wrong with that feeling. But the elite level players will have a great practice regardless of how they feel. And so motivation is going to ebb and flow. Just like any other feeling. I mean, how many of you have ever been mad before? Everybody. How many of you have ever been happy before? Everybody. But nobody is mad all of the time. No one is happy all of the time because emotions, they come and they go. And so does motivation. So when you have motivation, be grateful for it, use it as the fuel, ride it as long as you can, but that's not what was going to determine our behavior. Thoughts on discipline and motivation? Yes, please.
How do you, how do I say this? How do you put discipline into a person who's just motivated? Like within the team, like if you think that they're inconsistent and think that they're just motivated by getting through it, but how do you implement discipline into their life?
Well, with most things, you can't ever force or make anybody else change. What we can do is we can model the behavior and the traits that we want to see in others. We can be encouraging and supportive and learn to speak the language of a teammate, because I mean you have 16 different personalities in here, and the way that you'd get on Alicia is not the way that maybe you'd get on Vaz. Like, everybody's a little bit different. So that's part of what being a great teammate is, which we will get to in a moment, is learning how to push what buttons on who. You know, some players on your team you can probably talk very directly to and they'll respond very well. There's other players you might have to put a little sugar on top of it to give them that information, and that's okay. And I'm a big believer it's the role of the person doing the communicating that needs to be chameleon-like. Mm-hmm. So it's my job to speak your language. It's not your job to have to speak mine.
Yeah.
So try and figure that part out. So figure out what's the disconnect and have that type of thoughtful conversation. If you don't think someone on this team is making disciplined decisions and they're relying heavily on motivation, then figure out how. First of all, they might not be aware of it. And you guys remember what we talked about yesterday with awareness? It's always the first step, because you ain't improving anything that you're unaware of. So also have the grace to know that a teammate might not be doing something deliberately. They might be unaware of the fact that that's what they're doing. It's a blind spot. Everyone in this room, myself at the front of that line, has blind spots. Now, I don't know what they are. That's why they're blind spots. But I'm humble enough to know that I have them. And I surround myself with people that care enough about me to show me what they are and expose them and shine a light on them. And that's what we should be doing for each other. So give your teammates some grace that when they make a mistake or do something that they didn't do it with poor intent, they might not know any better. Mm-hmm. And you want to be able to help them with that.
Yeah.
All right, the big one, this one we'll spend probably the most time on is mental toughness. If you guys had to have a definition for mental toughness, what would it be? And this can be your ChatGPT answer if you'd like it to be. How would you define mental toughness? And then I'll give you my definition, and then we're going to break it down.
like the ability to combat negative thoughts.
I love it. She said the ability to combat negative thoughts. I love it. Well, first, before we go any further, can we agree that mental toughness is an attribute that we'd like to possess?
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, let's make sure we're on the same page first. Because if y'all don't even want it, I don't need to talk about it. So, okay.
Also, don't be shy. Y'all are shy right now. I don't know
Yeah.
why, right? Just talk. This is like, I see you feeling things. What do we always say? If you feel something,
Say something.
say something.
I like
right?
that.
There's no right or wrong. So I see you feeling, like I see the wheels turning in your head, Maria, right now. I can see it for you, Hel. I can feel it from you with your backs to me. So just talk, y'all. Let's make this interactive.
Yeah.
So when you receive feedback that you don't hear the tone, but only that somebody wants to help you in that moment, just take the information.
I love that.
Mhm.
That's definitely being mentally tough.
Not letting your emotions control your responses.
Absolutely. That's one thing. Yeah, that gets some snaps for sure. Hopefully you understand this distinction. I want you guys to play with emotion, but I don't want you to be emotional. There's a difference between the two, and that's part of mental toughness. Here's my definition of mental toughness. Do the best you can with what you have wherever you are. Full stop. You can put a period at the end of that sentence. We don't need to make it any more complicated than that. Do the best you can with what you have wherever you are. In my opinion, the people that regardless of circumstance, regardless of events, regardless of environment, regardless of what's going on in or around the world, they do the best they can with what they have wherever they are. Those people are unshakable, unbreakable, unbeatable. And here's why. When you do the best you can with what you have wherever you are, you eliminate a trilogy of behaviors that are sisters of being silent and being soft and being stupid. These three things will undermine your performance, they undermine your productivity, they undermine your everything it is that you guys want in life, on and off the court. These three behaviors will undermine those things. And what are these three devious behaviors? Blaming, complaining, and making excuses. That is the trilogy that will undermine everything you want in life. They will erode and corrode the culture of this team. They will undermine your ability to be a great basketball player. They'll undermine your ability to be a great student. They'll undermine your ability to be great in relationships. Blaming, complaining, and making excuses is a trilogy of behaviors that will crush whatever it is that you're trying to do. And here's what makes it tough. The temptation to do those things is very real. And I'm not even going to say that whatever you're blaming, complaining, and making excuses about isn't valid or isn't true. It very well may be true. My assertion is it's not going to help you move forward, so you got to learn to let it go. It's like carrying an anchor around. So blaming, and I use absolutes very sparingly, but blaming, complaining, and making excuses will never, ever improve your situation or move you or your team forward. Ever. So we have to let go of the very real temptation to do those things. And as I think someone mentioned earlier, oh, no, it was you when you were talking about something with body language after a missed shot. Like, let's be real. Someone in this room is going to blame, complain, or make an excuse at some point, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, every single one of us will do that. Yeah. But the goal is to have the awareness to do it less frequently than we've done it before, to do it less often, to recognize that we just did it and bounce back very quickly. And go, you know what, I just made an excuse. Yeah, that ain't going to help. My bad. Well, no, we can't say my bad. Sorry about that. We have to be able to bounce back and move on from that. So understand the temptation's there. The temptation's real. Whatever excuse you're making might be very valid. You know, why were you late? My alarm didn't go off. Okay, that is factual. Your alarm didn't go off. That is true. But that is an excuse because there has to be another fail-safe to still making sure you get here on time. So we have to rid ourselves of doing those three things. And that's one of the ways that we can really help hold each other accountable. Just have the grace and space to know someone is going to blame, complain, and making an excuse at some time, and just call them up on it, and that's okay. And then and hope they'll do the same thing for you when you make that same mistake. So that's one portion of it. Another portion of it is one of the most valuable skill sets you can develop in life is the ability to regulate your emotions. First and foremost, you have to have an awareness of your emotions. So you have to have the awareness to go, I'm frustrated right now. Great, you've identified it. Then I would hope that you can dig a little bit deeper and go, well, why am I frustrated right now? See, one of the most important parts you guys need to understand about emotions, and I definitely do not label emotions as good or bad. I just think emotions are 100% unbiased and sterile. They're just information. They're just flag posts to let us know how we're feeling. We have emotions for a reason. They're protective mechanisms. When you're feeling angry or frustrated or irritated or disappointed, whatever it may be, there's a reason for that, and I want you to put the antenna up and try to dig deeper to figure out why you're feeling that way. But the separation that we have to learn how to make is all emotions are okay. There is nothing wrong with you being frustrated because you missed a shot. Nothing is wrong with that. In fact, I actually think that makes you human, and if you care about this game and you care about your performance, you should be frustrated that you just missed a shot, especially if it's a shot that you normally make. But here's the separator. All emotions are okay, all behaviors aren't. And it's behaviors that we're trying to make sure we hone in and regulate. Being mad that you missed a wide open jump shot from the elbow is okay. Jogging back on defense with bad body language is not okay. The emotion is fine, the behavior is not. So we have to learn how to separate those two things. And the terminology we use is standard over feelings. Learn to live your life to a standard. Don't live your life based on your feelings. Now, an important component of that, please hear me on this. I never want you to suppress your feelings, resist them, or ignore them. Feel angry that you just missed that shot. There's nothing wrong with feeling that anger, but use that anger into a productive behavior, not into one that is undermining or debilitating. Great shooters should be mad when they miss a shot, but great shooters do not let it affect their body language. They definitely don't let it affect the next shot. They don't let it affect them running back on defense. It has no effect on their behavior. And that's how we need to process. So standards over feelings. Learn to live your life to a standard, not based on how you feel. But we're not suppressing our feelings. So I just want to make sure we understand the difference between the two. Lots of times people think stoicism or being stoic means you suppress or ignore your feelings. That's not the case. It means you don't let them dictate your behavior. That's the point that we need to get to. Any thoughts on that? I tell you what, you get that skill right, you're going to live a great life. Regardless of whether you're Ivy League champs or not. You just get that one puzzle piece in place, and I'm telling you, it solves almost everything. Most people allow how they feel to run their lives. They let that run the show, and you don't want that. Because as I told you guys yesterday, we don't control our thoughts. And we actually don't control our feelings. Like, you don't consciously get mad when you miss a shot. It just comes up. It's innate. But we do control the behaviors, and that's the part. We can't ever pass the keys to the car over to our feelings. Inconsistent people are the ones that behave based on how they feel, based on their mood. If you're only a good teammate when you're in a good mood, guess what? You're not a good teammate. You have to be a good teammate regardless of how you feel.
Mia?
I was just wondering if being flustered is an emotion.
Yeah, it's probably a combination of a few.
Okay.
There's probably some frustration mixed with some overwhelm so a lot of these are kind of a cocktail of several emotions at the same time. And with all of these things, give yourself grace and space to feel them. Like, the worst thing you can do is pack shame and guilt and be critical on top of feeling bad. Let yourself feel how you're going to feel. Just don't let it dictate your behavior. Go ahead.
So when you're like overwhelmed or feeling flustered or frantic, how do you separate the emotion and behavior?
Awesome. I'll go more into that when we talk about confidence, but the answer is your self-talk. Self-talk is the most important things you guys will ever say in your life are the things you say to yourself. Every single one of us has a little voice in our head that we get a narrative from. And if you're sitting here right now going, I don't have a little voice in my head, guess who just said that? Yeah, it's the little voice in your head. Every one of us has got it. It's like the can of Coke. Like, you can't unsee what's right in front of you. So you just have to know that. But you have to learn how to talk to yourself in a compassionate way. Now, you guys are alphas. Like, you are elite student athletes. That's why you're here. You're great at what you do. And it's been my experience that usually coincides with being very self-critical. In fact, most of you are probably harder on yourselves than you're harder on each other. And it's not that I don't want you holding yourself to a high standard. I absolutely want you holding yourself to a high standard. But I want you, and I keep saying it over and over, give yourself the grace and space to be compassionate and empathetic with yourself. It very rarely is the best thing to do when you're feeling low is to be even more critical and pile it on. That's usually the last thing you'd want to do. So what I recommend you do, in this case, Mia, if you're feeling flustered, how would you talk to Fliss if she was feeling flustered and she's your teammate and your friend? You probably wouldn't be very critical of her. You wouldn't make her feel worse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd probably let her know, hey, I got your back. It's okay that you're feeling flustered. That's we got this. Well, learn to talk to yourself the same way you would talk to a teammate. And that's what being a great teammate is all about. And that's really hard to do. But that self-talk is, again, that's another one of these massive life skills that has so much utility. But learn to talk to yourself in a kind, compassionate way. And that's not being soft. That's not being weak. Still hold yourself to an unbelievable standard. You can still talk to yourself in a very firm way. No one's saying that we have to be all Pollyanna and everything's okay. It's just saying, in this moment, making myself feel worse by being critical or feeling shameful or feeling guilty is not going to make things better. If somebody's in the pool and they're drowning, who said they don't swim? Yeah. If she was in the pool and she was struggling a little bit, would you throw her a life raft or would you throw her an anchor? I would hope. If you throw her an anchor, it's going to be lights out, like she's done. Well, if you're feeling low and you're feeling bad and you start stacking criticism on top of yourself, you're just giving yourself an anchor. Like, don't throw yourself a life raft. And just say, yeah, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. You should feel overwhelmed. I forgot, who are the freshmen in the room? Yeah, y'all should feel incredibly overwhelmed right now by everything going on. You're living on your own. You're in a remarkable college program that is run like a professional program. You have the unbelievable academic state. Like, you should feel overwhelmed. That makes you normal. I would imagine, if they're being honest, everyone else in the room, when they were your age and your year, they felt overwhelmed too. And now they don't as much. So that's great. You have something to look forward to. That you realize that this too shall pass. So just know that. So give yourself some grace. Part of being a freshman is being overwhelmed. Welcome to the club. It's great. And you'll matriculate up. And in a couple of years, there'll be another class of freshmen sitting here right now, and they'll be feeling overwhelmed as well. But you'll know how they feel, so then you can add some empathy and some compassion.
One thing on that, Alan.
Yes,
I
please.
think, Mia, make sure you heard what he said. Like, extrapolate yourself from those feelings. When you feel, not the feelings, you feel the things. Extrapolate yourself and be like, almost like, can I see Fliss doing that same thing, or name X teammate?
Yeah.
And that's what, right? So it's like, if you can imagine or talk to yourself in that way.
Yes.
So it's like, can you almost be having an outer body experience?
That's exactly it. That's,
Yeah.
I wish I would have worded it that way. That's
Yeah.
perfect. What it's called is being a bystander to your thoughts.
Yes.
So watch yourself as if you're a character in a movie and you're watching the movie, and now you can just yell at the screen what you want that person to do, but that person is you. One other tool to think about is reframe expectations, because usually many of the emotions that we don't prefer, and that's how I like to look at them instead of saying it's a bad emotion. Like, none of us would prefer to feel overwhelmed, prefer to feel frustrated, but they're natural. It's usually because there's a misalignment between what we expected and reality. Well, we can't change reality, so all we can change on that equation is the expectations portion of it. Coach and I were talking about this on the ride over this morning. When I was at DeMatha, I would talk to our guys all the time. Like, when you're driving to the basket, you should expect to get fouled. You should expect that there should be some contact. You do understand the team in the other jersey, their whole job is to prevent you from scoring, right? So why are you surprised or upset when there's contact? Like, that's just part of the game. So go to the basket and assume you're going to get fouled, and then just be pleasantly surprised if you're not, instead of the other way around. Like, expect that practice is going to be really hard today. Don't be frustrated or upset that it is. Just assume that it's going to be incredibly hard today. So we can reframe expectations. So when there's a divide between expectations and reality, that's when we usually feel many of the unpleasant feelings. And we cannot control reality, but we can control our expectations. So lean into that. Assume that life's going to be hard. Assume that any aspect of the game or of practice is going to be challenging and going to be difficult. And then lean into that. Be thankful for the opportunity to get to do hard things. That's what Jay Billis always says, fun is doing difficult things well. Like, that's his definition of fun, doing hard things well. You guys realize that when you win the Ivy League championship this year, both regular season and tournament, what makes that so fulfilling is the path to get there is really hard. If it was easy, there'd be minimal satisfaction. You get hardly any satisfaction out of things that come easy. So it's the challenge is what actually makes it enjoyable, and yet most people turn around and complain about the challenge. They complain about the adversity. Well, that's what's going to make this thing so rewarding in the end. Be thankful. You want to walk through a ton of mud to get where you're trying to go, and then it'll make it that much better. And there's also that inverse relationship. If you do what's hard now, things afterwards become easier. If you do what's easy now, everything after becomes harder.
Yeah.
So make that investment now.
Yeah.
I just wrote that because I didn't want to forget. This is a part of mental toughness, but I'm going to cover that as its own separate entity in a moment. So anything else on mental toughness that you guys are, I appreciate you getting involved in sharing this stuff now. Any other thoughts?
All of the returners, I could say almost confidently, you all are mentally tougher than you were last year.
Yes, that's awesome.
And I'm really, really proud of that. That's really special, like almost makes me choked up because I've seen you guys go through so much journey.
I'm glad that you said that because this is an important time for me to make a very important disclaimer. And just so you know, so I'm almost 50 years old, so I played basketball at Elon down in North Carolina in the late 90s. And every single thing I've shared with you guys so far, every single thing I've shared with you, I did the exact opposite of when I was your age. I'm not kidding. I was the king of blaming, complaining, and making excuses. I didn't have an ounce of mental toughness in my body. Everything was everybody else's. Like, it was almost embarrassing. But that's also what's put me on the path to be able to teach and preach this stuff today, because I've seen both sides of it. So I have nothing but empathy and compassion. There's not an ounce of judgment from me if you do blame or complain or make an excuse, or if you do have bad body language. I'm never using that to judge you. My goal is to help course correct it so you don't do it anymore, but there's never judgment out of that. So please give yourself permission to be less than perfect, because I promise you, all of the stuff that I've seen you, like, my body language was way worse than anything I've seen here in the last 2 days. I mean, it was awful, but I've learned and now I'm doing better. So I'm still going in the right direction, which is what Coach just said, is that's what's most important. Whether you can put the flag in the ground right now and claim to the world, I am mentally tough, is irrelevant. All you need to be able to say is, I am mentally tougher than I was yesterday, last year, 2 years ago. That's all that matters, and let's keep you moving in that direction. So the other part of mental toughness will be this concept of playing present. We'll get to that, but let's talk about confidence now. Anybody ever struggle with confidence? Yeah, oh, all of us. And still to this day continue to do. But now we'll have an awareness of it, so now we can fix it. I'm of the belief that confidence is earned. It's not an innate quality that we're born with. It's something that absolutely can be developed. And I'm also of the belief there's 3 things that we do to develop it. The first, confidence comes from demonstrated performance, which is another way of saying preparation. You put in the work during the unseen hours, you will increase confidence. You don't put in the work during the unseen hours, you will decrease confidence. We talked yesterday about doing more than is required. Like, you're required to do a lot to be in this program. Like, you guys have a lot of things that you have to do. And if you only do what you have to do, you will be mediocre at best. So you have to do more than is required. You have to do extra work. Just from you guys, because I don't know you all well enough, who would you say is the most, not necessarily the best, but who would you say is the most confident shooter on the team?
Riley.
Okay. Would it be fair for me to assume that Riley, and this might not be true, so correct me if I'm wrong, has probably made more shots than anyone else during the unseen hours and in empty gyms from birth until now? And maybe someone in here says, no, I put up a lot of shots too. You want to try to get, that's great, okay. But can we at least agree that there's a correlation between being the most confident shooter and being the shooter that has put in the most work?
Yes.
Obviously on the female side, you've got Caitlin Clark, everyone knows her, but I'm very familiar with, even on a personal level, of Stephen Curry, who I believe is the best shooter the male game has ever seen. And I can promise you he has made 10x more shots in empty gyms than anybody else walking the earth right now. Now, there's other things that allow him to be a great shooter, but that is one pivotal point. And he's also the most confident shooter on the planet, other than maybe Caitlin Clark. So those things are correlated. And guess what? You have control over how much work you put in. And it doesn't just have to be shooting. I do happen to think shooting is a skill that requires confidence. But it's anything that you want to be good at if you put in the work and you demonstrate the performance. So on some level, Riley and Mia have seen the ball go through the basket more times in their life than anybody else has in this room. And they're also the two most confident shooters in the room. That's not a coincidence. That's not an accident. But you control that half of the equation. So number one is demonstrated performance. The second way we increase confidence is we keep the promises we make to ourselves. When you make a promise to yourself that you're going to do something and you do it, your confidence goes up. When you make a promise to yourself you're going to do something and you don't do it, your confidence goes down. Whatever, you tell yourself you're going to get up at 6 a.m. to get in certain stretches before you have to be in the weight room. You're going to do that on your own. And you say that's what you're going to do because Tommy said that's something you should do. Well, if you wake up at 6 and you do your stretches, your confidence goes up. If you hit the snooze and you sleep in and you barely make it to the weight room session, your confidence will go down. And you can fake it all you want. I'm talking about unconsciously, you know, and the person in the mirror knows, I didn't do what I said I was going to do, and that will erode your confidence. So you've got to keep the promises you make to yourself. And then the third we just touched on a little bit is the little voice in your head. How you talk to yourself drastically impacts your confidence level. You know what Stephen Curry says to himself unconsciously when he misses a shot?
Went in.
Yeah, on some level, he probably said, well, that's not like me. Jesus, I can't wait to get the ball again because the next one's going in. Like, it doesn't faze him in a bit. The thought of, oh, maybe I'm not that good a shooter. Oh, gosh, I've missed 5 in a row. I don't know if I should take the 6. That doesn't even enter his mind. Conceptually, doesn't even cross his mind because he's programmed his inner voice to only uplift and empower. And that's how and that goes back to, let's be very, have high discernment in how we choose to talk to ourselves. Talking to yourself in a critical way, talking to yourself through the lens of shame and guilt, you've got to be very, very careful of that. And we all do it to some degree, so we just have to be aware of it and try to minimize that. But learn how to talk to yourself the same way. Like we established yesterday, Riley is a great shooter. As long as she's taking good shots, if she misses 5 shots in a row, how many of you want her taking the 6th shot? Absolutely. So you just need to talk to yourself the way they just did. Just raise your hand to yourself. I can't believe I just missed 5 in a row. I ain't missing 6. I got this. That's the mindset that we need to have. And that's, and confidence, like anything else, we get better at it through practice, by being deliberate, by being intentional, by being purposeful. So work on those things. Put in the hours and the preparation to earn the right to be confident. Talk to yourself in a manner that empowers and uplifts you, and then keep the promises to yourself. You do those 3 things consistently, and confidence will continue to increase. And then it'll be unshakable. But here's the thing. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. We want you to be confident, but you always have to blend that with humility. Humility is what will allow you to stay open to coaching. Humility is what will allow you to stay open to feedback. Humility is what will allow you that no matter how good you get, you know you can still get better. That's all that matters. So humility, confidence blended with humility is when Riley goes on a heater and makes 7 shots in a row, but coach still has some constructive feedback to offer. You're open to hearing that. You don't tune it out and go like, what world are you living in? I just made 7 shots in a row. Like, I got this. No, humility is what says, yes, coach, how can I get even better? What can I do to tweak even more to get, the even higher performance? Humility is also what will allow you guys, when you go on a 7, 8, 9, 10 game win streak, humility is what will allow you to still prepare for that next opponent, regardless of who they are. Like, I've heard the word on the street is you have some teams in your league are really, really good and some teams in your league are not as good. Well, if your measurement is they're not so good, so I don't really need to prepare and I don't need to be locked in and we're still going to win anyway, that's not what champions do. Champions have the humility to prepare and respect their opponent no matter who they're playing. Because they also realize it's not who we're playing, it's how we're playing. So keep in mind, you can win a game based on the scoreboard and you took a massive step backwards because you eroded your habits, you didn't lock in, you didn't do what you're supposed to do. If you are a 20-point favorite against an opponent and you win by 5, that's not a good day.
Yep.
Not a good day at all. So we don't let the scoreboard dictate our behavior and the way we prepare and our humility. That has to come from within. Can't come from the external, has to come from the internal in everything we do. And that's You prepare for everyone the exact same way. And it's harder to do that. Like, let's be honest, when it's a rivalry game or a big game, like, it's easier to get up for those games. Those actually are the games where you have more motivation. You have that extra fuel. It's harder in the dog days of December and January, and it's a random Tuesday night, and you're playing someone that on paper is supposed to be inferior to you. And for you to still be locked in and dialed in and practice just as hard and still study film and do everything you're supposed to do for those games, that's what the separator is. Because remember, we're trying to build habits. It goes well beyond who we're playing tomorrow night. That is irrelevant. We're trying to every single day take a step forward to get closer to winning the championship. And what could be more ridiculous than taking a step backward on a day where you're playing someone that's not as good as you? Like, that should be a day you take a giant step forward. Like, that should be a day the starting five and the however big the rotation is says, we're going to go out there and whip their ass so bad everyone's playing tonight. Like, everyone's going to get minutes. Because by halftime, we're going to have to take our foot off of their neck because this thing is going to be over. And we're going to do that so everyone gets some shine tonight. That's the mindset that you have to have. And it all comes down through the blending of confidence with humility. I think another lens to look at this through is be someone that is fun to play with and hard to play against. To me, that is a great teammate. One of my favorite words when it comes to just being a teammate is learn how to be relentless. I mean, is there anything harder than playing against someone that's relentless? Like,
No,
even if you're
sucks.
just playing, it's awful. You're like, dude, can you just take one play off? Like, give me a break. Can you stop sprinting everywhere? Can you stop setting such hard screens? You're like a gnat. You're so relentless. Be that person.
Yes.
You're fun to play with, and you are so hard to play against. But most importantly, however you define being a great teammate and whatever those traits are, make sure that's what you're doing and what you're bringing every single day. If you want the person to your right and left right now to work hard and be supportive, then you better work hard and be supportive. If you want them to tell you the truth, then you have to be a truth teller yourself. If we expect it of others, we have to expect it of ourselves. And remember what we said yesterday. Only one of you, by definition, can be the best on the team. All of you can be the best for the team or make a commitment to be the best for the team. That part's within your control. Being the best on the team is not necessarily in your control, and I don't think it's anything you really need to be worried about. But being the best for the team. Like, ask yourself, can I add the most value to this team and to what we're trying to accomplish? Like, let that be your badge of honor. And the beautiful part about that has nothing to do with what year you are. That has nothing to do with how much you play. Your average, like, none of that has anything to do with it. You can add value to this team if you're the 16th man. You can add value to the team if you're the best player. It doesn't matter. That part's within your control. Remember, if there's one through line with everything I've shared with you, it's let's focus on the things we have control over and let go of the things that we don't. Let's stack the odds in our favor in everything that we do. Which brings us to playing present, which is terminology that I love. Playing present basically just means to be where your feet are and to be in the moment. If you want to win any given moment, you have to be in that given moment. So playing present has a few different components. I mean, first of all, by definition, being present means we're not worried about the past. We're not worried about the last possession where we turned the ball over. That one's over. We'll address that one tomorrow in film. I know we're going to hear about it, but right now I'm not worried about it. What just happened is over. It's done. It also means we're not worried about what may or may not happen in the future. If there's 3 minutes left on the clock and you're worried about winning or losing, then you're not in the present moment. Because you cannot win or lose with 3 minutes left on the clock. Remember, what was our definition? You have to have the most points on the scoreboard when the buzzer goes off. So until the buzzer goes off, you don't have to worry about winning or losing. All you have to worry about is the possession right in front of you. That's all that matters. And we already talked about yesterday. We're on offense right now. What do I need to do to help us get the highest percentage shot possible? That might mean sprint rim to rim as fast as possible. That might mean set a screen. That might mean drive and kick out. That might mean make sure you're shot ready. But whatever it is that you have to do, what do I have to do to give us the highest percentage shot possible? And then if the possession is on defense, what do I need to do to guard my yard and make sure I'm doing everything that they take the lowest percentage shot possible? And just focus possession by possession. When you can drill it down to that and you break the macro down to the micro, you can do some pretty remarkable things. Like, I'm willing to bet if you were playing 3-on-3 right now, and I said to your team, if you get this stop right now, I'll give you $1,000. There's a really good chance y'all get a stop. Because you would be so locked in and dialed in, you wouldn't care about anything in the world other than stopping them right now and then. Well, why not apply that to every single possession of every single game? Why not? That's really hard to do. And please know that I understand that everything I've shared with you guys so far is very basic in premise. Not a single thing I've shared with you is easy to do. None of this stuff is easy. It's incredibly hard to do. But that's the mindset we want to have. And being present means that's what all we're worried about is what's right in front of us. So to dive deeper, there's 3 components. The one that I'm most passionate about is next play, is having a next play mindset. Maria just turned the ball over. Oh well, next play. Let's just miss the shot. Oh well, next play. Referee didn't make a call. Next play. Coach Mag just yelled at me. Next play. Next play. Next play. Next play. Riley just hit a 3. Oh well, next play. Congratulations. That's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. Next play. We don't need to dance. We don't need to shoot arrows. We don't need to do all that stuff. You did your job. Congratulations. Let's get back and play defense. Next play. All that matters is the next play. The one that just happened is over. There's nothing you can do about it. Good, bad, or indifferent. It is over. All that matters is the play that is right in front of us right now. And if you can approach it with that type of stoicism and almost stone-face approach, I mean, it is so intimidating. Coach and I were talking about this in the car. Like, there's nothing more intimidating than playing against someone that no matter what you do, you can't rattle them. You can't fluster them. Like, you can't agitate them. They don't care what you do. You have no effect on their emotional palate at all. That is a really hard person to beat. Someone that misses 5 shots in a row and doesn't care that they miss 5 shots in a row because they shoot the 6th one with the same confidence as if they had made the first 5. God, that is a tough person to beat. Somebody that you fouled going to the basket and the referee didn't call it, and they don't whine about it. They don't cry about it. They're like, oh, well, this is a part of the game. I'm going to get back on defense. That's a hard person to beat. So be that person. Be the person that is so stoic that no matter what happens, you just move to the next play. Now, the second part of that, the second pillar, so we have move to the next play. The second pillar is, as we talk about, control the controllables. Focus on your attitude and your effort and learn to let everything else go. Check those boxes off first. When I was in the basketball training space, a little different than I'm doing at present, players would always ask me, like, about supplements. What supplements do I need to take? And I'm like, you don't need to worry about supplements because your diet's trash. Like, we don't need to talk about supplements. Supplement means in addition to. It's extra. Until you eat correctly, we're not going to talk about supplements. So you don't need to worry about anything in this world until you can say that I'm giving the best effort I'm capable of as consistently as possible, and I have the best attitude that I'm capable of having. My responses are on point. When you check those 2 boxes off, then you can look in some other areas. But that's the only part you need to worry about. How good is your effort and how good is your attitude in any given moment? Because remember, that's the only part you can control. You can impact and you can influence the teammate to your right and to your left, but you don't control their effort or attitude. That has to come from them. You can model it, you can encourage it, you can support it, but that has to come from them. So focus on your effort and your attitude. And then the third pillar, so we focus on the next play, we focus on what we have control over, and we focus on the process. The juice is in the process. All about the process. What's the process of being a good shooter? It's having your feet on balance, being relatively facing the basket, having your elbow in, doing a follow-through, like all the things you've been taught. That's the process, and those that follow that process and take good shots tend to be better shooters than those that don't. So think of, at any given moment, your role on the court or your role supporting from the sideline, what that is, and how can you do that to the best of your ability. When you guys are running some of your breaks and stuff today, and again, I don't have the basketball acumen to even talk intelligently on it, but any type of break or secondary break, like what is your specific role in that portion of the break? That's the only part that you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about the whole thing. If your job is to run from rim to rim, that's the only thing in the world that you have to worry about right now, is how do I run to that rim as fast as possible? Because if I do that, then that's going to open up something for someone else who, if they're doing their job, One of the reasons I love watching football is incredibly compartmentalized, especially on offense. Like each player has to do something incredibly specific, and if every single one of them does exactly what they're supposed to do, that's when the magic happens. But as soon as one person doesn't do what they're supposed to do, the whole thing breaks down. So you have 11 people on offense, one guy gives a half-ass effort to block the person in front of them, and they get tackled in the backfield. The whole thing is ruined because one person didn't do the one thing they're supposed to do. And all you're supposed to do is take 2 steps to the left and block this guy. That's all you're supposed to do, and you didn't do that. So focus on the process of what it is that you're supposed to do. And when you dial in on the next play, on what you have control over, and the process, now you're being in the present moment. We don't worry about the past. We don't get anxious about the future. Everything we're doing is in the present. Which is kind of funny because you know the present moment is the only place you can actually be anyway. You do realize you can't be in the past and you can't be in the future. Those things actually do not exist except in your mind and in language. We can use future and past-based language, but you can't ever go back to the past. You can remember it, but that's in your mind. You can't be and you can't be in the future. Because what happens when you actually get to the future? It's now the present, yeah. I don't know why this is funny to me, but when I was your age, there was a bar at Elon, and it had a neon sign that said free beer tomorrow. Yeah, and I showed up. I'll be back tomorrow. And I showed up. It only took me a week. And after a week, I finally figured it out. I was a little slow on the uptake, but I figured out that you can never be in the future. Like, that's it. So learn to let it go. Now, the other part that I find very interesting, because if you suffer with any type of anxiety, once again, give yourself some grace and space. That is normal. All of us feel anxiety to some degree at some level. But we get anxiety from a perceived future that we believe is going to happen. We're consumed with worry about something that we think is going to happen. And where do we get that from? It's a projection that we're putting out there. So I have to step up to the free throw line, and I've projected what if I miss, and I'm already playing in my head all of the ramifications of missing, and that's what I've programmed in my mind. But it hasn't even happened yet. How are you upset about something that hasn't even occurred yet? And I'm not saying that facetiously, because I've struggled with that as well. But think about, if you just break it down right now in this moment, how ridiculous that is. I'm worried about something that hasn't even... Why would you be worried about a shot you haven't even taken yet? Like, if you think about it, it is ridiculous. And if we're going to assert, which I am, that the future is 100% hypothetical because it hasn't occurred, why tell yourself a story that doesn't have the fairy tale ending? Yeah. Like, if you're just going to make this stuff up anyway, why don't you just say, yeah, oh my God, I can't, I'm about to hit this shot and be the most famous person in Columbia basketball history. Like, this is it. This is, like, if you're going to tell yourself a story, why not tell yourself that one? It's just as real as the one you just told yourself that you're going to miss. Because they're both 100% fabricated. There's not an ounce of reality to either one of them. So that goes back to some of the confidence. And this is not about being delusional. This is about learning to talk to yourself in a healthy way. Catch yourself when you're thinking like, oh my God, this is a big shot. Like, I'm a little nervous to take this shot. That's okay. That's healthy. It means you care. It means you're human. Just take a deep breath and be like, I haven't even shot it yet. But I know that I've made 10 million free throws in empty gyms. So if there's anyone that's going to step up and hit this thing, it's going to be me. And it's going to feel pretty good when I do. And then if you miss, deal with it then. Like, so again, it's not about being delusional. But why worry about something twice? Why suffer twice? Why worry about missing and work yourself up and then miss and be upset again? No sense in that.
When we were talking about, I forget exactly when we were talking about this, but you were saying how when you're driving, you're expecting to get fouled, and then
Yeah.
you're pleasantly surprised when you're not fouled.
Uh-huh.
So how does this like work where you're expecting practice is going to be really hard, but you're not like having an expectation to then be anxious about it?
Lean into, well, first of all, it goes back to the have-tos and the get-tos. Like, I want things to be challenging because that's how I get better. There's no point in going to the weight room if you're not going to lift weights that are hard. Like, what good is that going to do? Tommy and Tommy and Yuki have you in there lifting weights that are challenging for you to get that last repetition, because that's where the strength is actually built. The strength isn't built in the first 5. The strength is built in the 6th one that you can barely eke out. That's where we're getting stronger. And then your body adapts, and the next time you come in, 6 actually isn't as hard. Now it takes 7 for you, or it takes a little bit more weight. So be thankful for the opportunity. That's why we should actually crave adversity and crave challenges, because that's where we get better. That's where the opportunity comes from. So I would say, yeah, practice is going to be really hard today. She just said today was the hardest practice that you've had, And we already established that the only easy day was yesterday. So the only thing I can infer from that is tomorrow's practice is going to be the hardest one we've ever had. And I'm glad. I can't wait. Bring it. And then be pleasantly surprised if for some reason it's not. Or if for some reason it wasn't as bad as you thought. You're like, okay, that's great. And some of it is because you guys are getting stronger. You know, there was Jim Rohn was a famous motivational speaker. Like, he was one of the godfathers that kind of started the whole thing. And he would always say, like, don't wish for life to be easier, just work to be stronger. Once again, you can sit around wishing that life is easier, and you have no control over that. So talk about a waste of time. Or you can actually make yourself stronger, that no matter what the world throws at you, you can handle it. I'll take that. I'll take that recipe. What's behind door number 2? So no matter what coach throws at us tomorrow at practice, we can handle this, guys. We're capable of this. It's going to be hard. There's going to be parts of it that aren't pleasant, but we can do it. And that also goes back to the self-talk. You can just keep saying to yourself, man, this sucks. God damn, this is hard. I hate this drill. Why does she keep yelling at me? You can look at it that way, and guess what? You're going to get more of that. Or you can look at it as, I'm thankful someone cares enough to yell at me and someone cares enough to push me harder. And if I can handle this in September, holy mackerel, do you know where we're going to be in March? Because if the whole goal is to continue to improve, the harder things are in September, the higher that peak will be in March. Remember what we talked about? Regardless of the scores that you guys just gave yourself, you're a little bit ahead of where the team was last year at this time. We were Ivy League champs. Like, that's awesome. You should want that. Tell her to turn it up even more. Let's make practice even harder every single day. Like,
Yeah.
Bring it, Coach Meg, bring it.
Oh, I got it.
Because the harder you make September, y'all can't wait for her to go to Australia, I know. the harder September is, in theory, the more prepared you will be in March, which is the goal. And that's also where you can look at your opponents, like the people that are trying to take lunch off of your plate. Like, you should look around, I mean, whoever the best teams are in your conference, and be like, we want our September to be harder than your September. We want our October to be harder than your October. Because you start stacking those bricks, and when we get to March, we've already been to hell and back, and you haven't, and we got you. So be grateful for that. Y'all got me fired up.
Yeah.
All right, so that's yeah. So we want to play present. And I know that some of the stuff I'm sharing with you, is you guys use different terminology. So please, whatever it is I'm sharing with you, I'm sharing it conceptually, and then you use your terminology when I leave here. But that's the concept of we're going to be focused on what's right in front of us. No matter what happens, we move to the next play. I don't worry about anything in this world except my own attitude and my own effort, and I don't worry about outcomes. All I worry about is the process, because the process is what I can control. And the more I control the process, I tend to get more favorable outcomes. That's what we want. We're just stacking the deck in our favor. All right. And I'm doing okay on time?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
You're good.
4 questions. These are questions that I have for you all, and these are questions that I want you to ask yourself. The first one we've covered pretty explicitly, but what drives your decisions? What you want now or what you want most? What you want now is for Coach Meg to stop yelling at you and for practice to be over. What you want most is to win the Ivy League championship. Which one do you want more?
Ivy League championship?
Exactly. Well, that's what I hope. And this goes back to the delayed gratification. When what you want most is what dictates your behavior instead of what you want now, that's powerful. That's what delayed gratification is. All right, number 2. How do you behave on your bad days? And let's be real, every single one of us has bad days. I like to joke around, and it's kind of annoying to people, but I usually tell people I don't have bad days, I just have varying level of good days. But it basically means the same thing. I have low days just like any other human being walking the planet. How do you behave on your bad days? How do you behave when things aren't going your way? How do you behave when you don't get what you want? That speaks way more about who you are as a person than how you behave on your good days. I can already tell you, and I'm just meeting you all. I know how all of you behave on your good days. You behave great. Like, life is so easy when things are going well. I don't even need to know you to know the answer to that. But how you behave when things aren't going your way, that's your true character. And that's the baseline that we want to raise up. which I'm going to go on a slight tangent here. This is something I've been thinking about a lot recently, and I've been fascinated with. Most people spend a lot of their time and resources trying to make their best just a little bit better. And it's not that there's anything inherently wrong with that, but I actually think you'll get more bang for your buck. Instead of trying to raise the ceiling, is you start worrying about raising the floor. So I want you to think about last year's team and how many practice. Do you know a number of practices you have in an entire season?
Yes.
What ballpark? How many?
100? Yeah, it's almost 100. Like if you get to
Right around
100,
100-ish?
that's like you're playing in April.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just say out of that 100, you had 2 or 3 that were just absolutely remarkable, almost perfect practices, like best performances. And you had 20 that were not your favorite practices.
Yeah.
They were kind of mediocre. You will actually get more bang for your buck if you can raise the baseline of what those 20 were. Instead of having 20 mediocre practices, they were just good practices, instead of adding a little 2% to the 2 practices you have. So don't worry so much about making elite performances just a hair better. Focus on raising your baseline. Focus to the point where you say that this year's team, your worst practice was actually like comparative to last year. Like think about how that would stack up. We want to raise the basement of everything that we're doing. In other words, can you raise your average? Just when you are being mediocre, because we're human beings, can we make that better than it's ever been? And that all has to do with how you behave when things aren't going your way. How do you behave when you're having a bad day? The third one. If you repeat the effort you gave today for the next 364 days in a row, how much progress would you make in a year? It's my assertion from what I saw from you all today. I think you guys individually and organizationally and collectively took a big step forward today. If you could repeat the improvement from yesterday that I saw to today, if you repeat that 364 more times, wow, watch out. Like, seriously. Now that's really hard to do, but I want you to think about that. But on a day where you didn't really take a step forward, you just kind of treaded water, no offense. If you, I'm just messing. Sarcasm is my love language. I'm just messing around. You didn't really take a step forward. Guess what happens if you don't take a step forward and you repeat that 364 times? You know where you are?
Same place.
Yeah, you're right where you were. You didn't move a bit. So we can't have that. So that's a question that you have to ask yourself. That goes back to the one I said earlier. I just traded 24 hours of my life for what I got out of today. Am I good with that trade? Because you can never get that 24 hours again. It's over. It's in the books. It's yesterday's newspaper. And then number 4, and I love this one, and I can say this, I could look any one of you in the eye and say the same thing. If everyone on this team had your work ethic and your attitude, would that be a good thing? And that's a question to ask yourself. If everybody on this team was like me, would that be a good thing? I can tell you when I was your age, when I played, it would not have been a good thing. I'd like to believe now it would be a good thing. So those are 4 recalibration questions I want you guys asking yourself pretty regularly if you can. All right, then we'll go to 3 quotes, and then we're just going to try to make sure we close the gap on the other side of the board, and then I'll try and make sure we're out of here right on time, unless there's anything else y'all need from me, because I'm happy to stay as long as you need me. All right, 3 quotes. A compliment unshared is an act of selfishness. If you have something nice to say and you don't say it, you're being selfish. And this is true on and off the court. Somebody hits you with a good pass and you make a layup and you don't thank them, you're being selfish.
Can you repeat that?
A compliment unshared is an act of selfishness. If you have something nice to say and you choose not to say it, you're being selfish. You guys are great note takers. That's my compliment. I thought it. I thought it. I was going to not say it, but that would be selfish, so I said it. All right, number 2. The results you seek are found in the work you're currently avoiding. But right now, the results you don't have are from something you are not doing. And there's a good chance you already know what that thing is you need to do. You're just not doing it. So it can either be the work you're avoiding or the work you're not doing, however you want to look at it. But the results you seek come from the work you're not doing. And number 3 is just one of my favorites, but it's very similar to number 1. But it's a teammate creed, and that is a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. If every single one of you had an unlit candle in front of you, all it would take is one who is lit, and you could pass it all the way around. Everybody in the room would be lit, and that original person's wouldn't be any dimmer. Any thoughts or questions or anything on this side of the board before we flip it? And I just want to make sure that we're closing the gap, and you guys are starting to come up with a blueprint to go from where we are to where you're trying to go, both individually and as a team. We're good? All righty. Well, we'll start on the individual side. I mean, those of you that spoke up that have the individual goals, start asking yourself, like, what's the blueprint? What's the system? What's the preparation? What are the habits? What is the mindset? What do I need to do, for those of you that are on here, to make these things happen? And come up with that system. Come up with that blueprint. And if your answer is, I don't know, that's okay. You can start by asking the person to your right or left. If that doesn't work, you can go to the end of the table. If that doesn't work, go to these folks back here. If that doesn't work, there she is. And it's okay to not know. There's nothing wrong with that. But Riley, if you don't know what it takes to be the player of the conference, then ask and find out. And everyone in this room will help you. Because you being the player of the year in the conference only moves everyone closer to winning the whole thing. So come up with your own roadmap and your own blueprint. And then same thing with this. Like, here's the list, and it's a beautiful list. You guys know what process it's going to take for you to achieve those goals. But if you're currently at a 6 on this process, what do we need to do to get that to a 6.5, to a 7, to a 7.5? Get it to a 9 by March. Doesn't have to be a 9 by the time she gets back from Australia. It's got to be a 9 by March. And same thing with all of these things. And then the hard part too is, like, all right, this one's the closest one, and shoot, I actually think today's energy was a 9. I thought y'all were really, really, really good today. But let's make sure that while we focus on some of these to pull these up, that we're not letting this one slip. So we don't want this one to go up to a 9 and this one goes down to a 6. We're in the same predicament. But you guys need to have a plan collectively. What do we need to do to inch forward? And I tell you what, I don't have very many vices. One of my only vices is shoes. I like shoes and I buy a lot of shoes. But like, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't gamble. But with that being said, that I don't gamble, if each and every one of you comes up with a blueprint to achieve this, and you all collectively have a blueprint to close the gap from that being a 6 to a 9, and from these being 8, 6, 7, 6. We get all of these to a 9, and you guys do all of these things. I bet you everything I own, you win the Ivy League championship. You win it outright, and I'll bet you everything I own. And I don't gamble. There's no way that if this group gets all of this to a 9, that you don't win the whole thing. It's not guaranteed, so there's a chance I'm going to lose everything, but I like the chances because we've stacked the deck in my favor now. And that's where I want you guys to feel empowered, because you control this part. Y'all have the keys. You're in charge. So I don't care what the other teams in your league are sitting around doing right now, what they have written on their whiteboard, what they're writing in their notebooks, what they're talking about. All of that is completely irrelevant. It means nothing to me. All that matters is what you all do, and if you do these things, I'm telling you, you're going to get it done. But you also have to live with the fact that if you don't do these things, you ain't going to get it done. And you have to live with that regret, and that will suck. But the hardest part about sports, about life, about being an adult is, as we just said, you could still do all of these things and not win. It's not guaranteed. But you'll at least have some inner peace, and it will sting because you're competitors. But at least you'll know that you did everything within your control to make it happen. And sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way. It's not pleasant. It still sucks. It still stings. But it's not guaranteed. But I'm telling you, if you guys come up with this blueprint, and it's daily, systematic, incremental improvements, you should be so excited for the journey you're about to go on for the next 6 months. And think about that. How many ones can we get on that board? Let's get rid of as many goose eggs as we can. How can we collectively make sure each one of these, because I don't know everyone's initials, is doing each and every one of these things? How can we support that? Like every time y'all walk by Riley, wherever you see her, be like, you're the player of the year. Tell her that. It'll happen. Behave as champions now. That's the only way you get to deserve to be champions. And it's always weird because technically you're the reigning champions, but you're not really, because that's yesterday's accomplishment. That was a different team, had some similar faces, but it's a different team. So you can't even walk around going like, I'm already the champ, because you're not. You were the champion, and you should be incredibly proud of that. But now we have to start again. And what you did before does not guarantee you anything now. The slate is clean. In fact, one can argue every successive year it gets way harder to win. Like, y'all have to be better than you were last year to win again, because the target on your back has gotten even bigger. Everyone is coming after you. Everyone is bringing their A game. Everyone is sitting around their whiteboard right now talking about what they need to do to take what it is that you all believe you're going to achieve. So it gets harder every year. But we should be thankful for that.
Bring it.
What an opportunity. Yeah. It's going to make it even better. I mean, keep making these shirts back to back to back to back. Like, keep them going. But it's going to get harder every time, and that's what makes it really special. So come up with the blueprint. And just don't forget, everything in the last 48 hours I've shared with you is very basic. Very basic. If there was a kindergarten class in here, they would understand everything that I've said. I'm a very simple guy. But not a single thing that I've shared with you is easy. None of this stuff is easy. Basic and easy do not mean the same thing. Those are not synonyms. People use those words as if they're interchangeable, but they're not. What it takes to be an elite athlete is very basic in premise, is incredibly hard to actually do. So just keep those things in mind.